Hi, and welcome to today's demo of Bridge Operator Console. Today's date is September 11th, 2012. This will be showing version 2.2.468, the current release as of today. Bridge Operator Console is a two-piece solution. There's a Windows service that runs on any Windows 2003 server or newer, and then the client, which can either be run on a Windows workstation or an Android tablet or phone. Most of the Attendant console products on the market work differently than Bridge Operator Console. They work off what's called a CTI route point. What that means is when a call comes in to your phone system, that call is immediately routed off the phone system and onto the Attendant console's server, which then hands it back to the Attendant console program on the workstation. If everything is up and running, this process can work pretty well for the most part. Most of the common complaints come from the fact that during this process, if the computer or server becomes busy or problematic, calls will get routed off the phone system and they aren't able to be handled by anybody. So essentially they're just routed off into space and dropped. From day one, we designed our program not to suffer from this flaw. We don't intercept any calls off the phone system. When a call comes into your Cisco Call Manager, it stays on that call manager until that call is done. We work very differently. We work on what we call an observe and report model, which makes us very much like a smart remote control for your phone. So when you ask us to do something like answer or transfer a call, what we do is we just send a command request to the phone system itself saying, hey, we need this phone answered, and it happens instantly. The calls, again, never leave the phone system. So that's a little bit about how we're different and how we deploy. The server piece, honestly, we recommend it be deployed in a virtual environment. It answers the high availability question and makes everything work very well. So to the Windows client, which is the subject of today's demo, we'll start by kind of looking at some of the things on the screen so we're familiar with what they are before we start making calls. For today's demo, I'm going to be playing the part of Melissa Wendt. She is extension 7601. Her phone is a Cisco 7965 color phone. It looks something like this, where you can see she's got 7601 as her primary DN, a secondary line, a shared line, and then some menu options as well. This is not her phone. This is the phone of this person, Susan Larson, extension 7012. This is on the screen so we can show some of the interaction we do with the calls, as well as we'll be doing the bulk of the transfers there too. So just so we can kind of see in real time how things happen with our program. So as far as the program goes itself, some of the things on the screen, this top left-hand corner up here is what we call our heads-up display area. Now that's going to show you information about the current call that you have selected. If there's more than one call ringing your phone, they'll populate here in the My Calls box from oldest to newest by default. So what does the current call selected mean? Well, when I have one call, it's the current call selected. Nothing real difficult about that. Say I get a second call to my phone, it'll show up here. If I want to select that call, I just click it, and now I'll perform operations on that call. Now, whichever call is selected up here, that's the one that'll be transferred or held or whatever command you issue that'll happen on the selected call. So why is that important? Bridge Operator Console does give you the ability to do something you may not have the option in your current AC or may not have ever seen before. So in this case, while I'm talking with this caller, Nissan Motors, I can actually select the first call, which is on hold, while I continue to talk to the second call, and I can transfer that call to someone. So that's why we have the ability to select a different call than you may be talking to. If that's entirely too confusing for operators, we do have an option in the program that tells the program to automatically always select the call you're speaking with. That way, if you use the phone or headset and you flip calls, on hold, off hold, things like that, our program will just automatically pick whichever one you're talking to, and then that'll be the one transferred. So we work either way. So whether you prefer to have that extra power of being able to transfer a call you're not speaking with, or you just want it simple where it's always going to transfer who you're talking to, we'll support you either way. To the right of the heads-up display area is our parking lot information. And again, like I mentioned, we're not routing calls off the phone system, so the park is really the same thing. All the park activity takes place in the Cisco park positions. We don't take calls and build them into our own little crazy park world, which means a couple of things. One, if somebody parks a call on the phone, that'll be visible for the operators here as well. And if we park a call, whether it's just a generic park or we use our Park4 technology that's built in our product, all the operators on the phone system will see that call and potentially who it's parked for, so that they'll all have that information at their fingertips. And I'll show you what parked for is in real time in just a minute, and that'll kind of explain why we think it really makes call parking super useful. Over here to the right, we have what we call extension groups. Essentially, these are just little containers of extensions. Really, the usefulness here comes into effect if I want to look at the entire sales department and see who's on the phone. I could click on the sales department and see. These can be built automatically and maintained a number of different ways, either from Call Manager using Axle and the end users table, or from Microsoft Active Directory. We don't require Call Manager be Active Directory integrated. We talk directly to AD. Honestly, it's much faster. And we'll be able to get you a little bit more info as well, like the person's title as well. So, like I said, these can be built automatically. You also have the ability to build your own in addition to that. You'll see I have some that say local, some that say global. So if I wanted to build my own group, it's easy. I can just click here. I give it a name, tell it what type of group. What that means is global. Everyone who's using this program can see it. Local means only I can see it. Basically, just give it a name, assign people to it, and it would show up. As you can see, all 4 of these have been built by somebody, not automatically pushed down. The rest of them are being automatically pushed down. So you can have a combination of different ones in there. Really, again, it's just for quick viewing. For the most part, you're going to want to use our search box to find people. It is global by default, meaning any part of anybody's first name, last name, phone number. It's going to search the whole phone system and instantly show you the matches and what the status is with that operator, or that end user rather. You also can toggle to a particular group. If I just wanted to look in the sales group only, I can toggle that to like that pinkish purple color, and then I'm searching just in sales, where I just find Larry. If I go back to a global search, I find 2 Larrys and a Susan Larson. So again, pretty simple stuff there. The location objects below that are created on the server, and a good explanation for these is these are things that you either need to call or transfer calls to that aren't people on your phone system. They're not going to show up as an extension. Some good examples might be a Hunt pilot number, an external conference bridge, Meet Me conference room, voicemail pilot, things like that. You can build all those things there, and they filter with the search as well. To the bottom, we'll show the current version, whether you're running in our supported recommended TAPI hybrid mode. You're able to change the font size if you need things bigger. This will flow to all forms as well. You're able to automatically size the columns based on the amount of data that's there to make it a little bit more readable. That's handy if you maximize the screen. It'll give you a little bit better visibility as far as what's in all those columns. The statuses are here. The little color key. You probably will need that for the first day or so you use the program. But honestly, the program's so intuitive and easy to use, it'll just make sense after that and be unnecessary. So the extensions are here. And these extensions are either going to be whichever ones are in the group you've selected or the search you've done. They're sortable, by clicking on any of these columns, either ascending or descending. Every operator can sort every extension in every group to his or her liking. So what that means is if I wanted to put Anna Gomez up 1 slot and save that out of alphabetical order, I can do that. And the next time I come back to this group, for me, it's going to be in that order. I can move things around however I like. That's really what those buttons are for. These extension statuses can come from a number of different places. You'll see one of them showing Exchange Calendar event. That's with our optional Microsoft Exchange Calendar connector. That gives you a little bit more than just the status in the extensions. It also gives you the ability to see in kind of a blind fashion when that person's going to be back. It'll show you a location and a status, but it won't show you anything like a message subject or meeting body, meeting recipients, meeting attendees. Those types of things are all blind. But it gives you enough information to tell the caller if they need to know when's this person going to be back. So some of the other statuses can come from typical presence clients that you might be familiar with, whether they be Cisco Jabber, Cisco Cups, Microsoft Link, and those are all available at no charge, where you can link in When I set my thing to do not disturb, you'll see in just a second it'll show for all the users of the program as well. I seem to have lost my link connection, of course, now, but the same would apply for Cisco Jabber, Cisco Cups, the ability to do those things as well. That's another option available. If you don't have any sort of presence solution, you can buy our $25 Park 4 client that gives you basic presence and notifications when somebody parks a call for you. That's an option. You can also connect to our connector server via this menu that we're able to push out. So you could have users, if they wanted to, change the status on their phone, let the receptionists know that they're out of the office. That's another option. And no matter what we do as far as presence goes, when someone is on a call, meaning their phone is either ringing or they're talking on a call, that'll be presented on top of everything else. So that'll always be visible no matter what else is going on. So we'll also read from the phone statuses themselves too. So for example, if I push do not disturb on this phone, within 5 to 10 seconds, we read it on kind of a slow loop so it doesn't overpower the phone system. You'll see that show up for all the operators to be able to see as well. The same rules apply for call forwarding. So if I just were to say call forward this phone to, say, 7001, once that goes through its process, it shows that it's forwarded now, and within a couple seconds, we'll show that in our program as well. We'll show it as this phone forward color, and we'll show you where it's forwarded to. So you'll have that information as well. So that's kind of the layout of the screen and how it works. So when we first put this program out on the first operators' desks, almost 4 years ago now, we really didn't tell them how to use it. We watched what they tried to do and made a decision at that point to try to incorporate as much of that as possible. So there are a lot of different ways to do the same thing in our program. So what do I mean by that? If I wanted to answer a call, you saw me click the answer button. I can double click here where it's pink. I could double click here where it's pink. I could right click and say answer. I could use the keyboard shortcuts and use the F1 key to answer. So I have a lot of different ways to do the same sorts of things there. So as far as transferring a call, again, the same rules apply. If I wanted to do a drag and drop transfer, I can. I personally, it's my least favorite way of doing it, so I always show it first. But there are lots of different ways to transfer a call. So let's just for fun, we'll search for Susan. So once we found her, we can drag any of these things onto her, and that function will be performed. So that would be just a blind transfer. That would do a Park 4, and that would send us straight to her voicemail. We can also click anywhere up here where it's green, and we just drag that to her, and that'll transfer the call. You'll see once we have no more calls, the program will put itself back the way it was for us. It won't resort or anything like that if we're on other calls or things like that. So it's more of just a convenience. You don't have to unsearch out of things. So we see that phone ringing, and as soon as she answers, we'll show it talking. Some other ways to transfer a call. Probably the fastest way, and I'll just double click to answer this guy. When you're on a call, you can double click the person and do a transfer. So that's probably the fastest way to do it with the mouse. Double click is one of those smart functions where if I double click it when it's ringing, like I know she's not going to get it, I can actually bring it back to me. When I'm on a call, I can double click that call to make it go on hold, or double click it to bring it out of hold. If I'm not on a call, where I'm just sitting idle not talking to anyone, and I double click a user, it's going to call that user. So double click really brings a level of intuitiveness to the program, and it's really situationally aware. It knows what you're trying to do at any given situation. It just does it for you to make life simple. Another method of transfer would be using a freeform transfer. Say perhaps I want to just punch in the number on the keypad. I can do that and press enter. You see it all performs the same operation. So I mentioned the keyboard shortcuts. So let's pull those out so you can see those. And let's handle the whole call with just the keyboard. So let's get it ringing. I'll take my hand off the mouse. I'll press F1 to answer it. Now transferring is a little different, where I have to narrow it down to one person on the screen so it knows who I'm trying to transfer to. So once I've done that, I can either do the F2 blind transfer like I've been doing, or I could do a supervised transfer with F4. And I'll show you the supervised transfer in real time as well. But for now, we'll just do an F2 to transfer that call. And you'll see it all happens exactly the same as it did with the drag and drop, the double click, the freeform It's all the same, just a lot of different ways to do it so that the operators can be comfortable in whichever method they prefer. All right, so the last method I'll show you is if we have a recommended method, this is probably it. If I right-click on somebody, you'll see I expose an entire menu with all the options really in one place. So I have my blind transfer like I've been doing. I have the supervised transfer, the straight to voicemail, parking, and a bunch of other stuff I'll talk about here in just a second. But for now, let's do supervised transfer so you can see what one of those looks like. You'll see in this case, it puts the other call on hold. It outdials to Susan so we can talk to her, tell her who the caller is. If she can take the call, we click yes and it'll complete the transfer. If for some reason she couldn't, we can always click no and then that'll bring us back to that call. In this case, we'll say yes, and by the time we flip over, you'll see it's all transferred through. So a lot of different ways to do the same sorts of things. And honestly, call parking is no different than that. There's several ways to do that as well. We support, kind of the, I don't want to say dumb, but the limited parking that the phone does a number of ways. You can right-click on any call and just park it generally, or you can click here and drag it, an inch to the parking lot, where that call will go parked. We'll get the park position number, the caller ID if there is one. At that point, the phone system doesn't even provide us the caller ID number. We'll actually count down this timeout for you. That's not readily available from the system, but you provide that on the server side, and we'll just count it down. So you have some idea of when the call is going to ring back. And when it does, we actually put the word ring back in front of it so you know it's not a new call and you can treat it differently. So to get a call off of hold, or out of park, I just double-click it, and it'll return back here. So what we've added, I mentioned it before, is our park for technology. So why is that better? Well, if I know who this call is for, I can go ahead and just right-click on somebody and say park for. That's going to do a couple of different things. The first, you'll see we have all the extra information that we store in our database, so we actually know who you parked the call for, who the caller is, the number, and all that stuff in addition. So all the operators will be able to see that. Secondly, we're able to push out a message and a chime right to that person's phone so that they'll know they have a call parked without me having to alert them. They can see when it was parked, who the caller is, where it's parked, and who parked it in case they need to call the operator back in 5 minutes and make sure it's still there if they were away from their desk. But at this point, all they have to do is lift their handset or push dial, and they can take that parked call. Where park for becomes really useful is when somebody is on the phone. So let's say we get another call. All right, it's for Susan. Well, we can see she's on the phone, but we don't know if this call or this call is more important to Susan. But she does. So let's right-click on her and just park that call for her. So again, it'll go in the parking lot. She'll get the same sort of notification on her screen, but it doesn't interrupt the call that she's already on. She is still talking to this call. But now she has the option to look at her screen and say, ooh, this is a more important call. I either need to get rid of the first call or tell them to hold or something. But she has this option now. So she can actually kind of become a mini operator herself, deal with this other call. And you'll see it. Once she's done, she can resume back to the first call, and everything's fine. We've done that without having to put the person on hold for several minutes while she finishes up the other call and whatnot. So callers are happier, operators are happier, and users are happier. It's a win-win-win. Some other things we can do that can be useful, either if someone is on or off the phone. If I right-click on someone, I have an option to send a message to their phone. This works very much like a cell phone text message, except it's to their IP desk phone. Say we could tell her her 1:15 appointment is in the lobby. Perhaps she's got a meeting. We want to let her know they're there, but we don't want to disturb the phone call that she's on. We have the option to send it in the future, but in this case, we'll send it right now. So you'll see, very much like the call parking, not interrupting her call, but it gives her a message. She can see who it's from and what it is. She has the ability to acknowledge it, so we know she got it. She can even reply to us on the phone if she likes, or she can just clear it all together. In this case, we'll just send an acknowledgement. And you'll see instantly our operator, Melissa Wendt, got notified that she got our message and acknowledged it, and that's the message. So That's one thing that we can do. Another thing we can do, if someone is on the phone or off, it'll work a little bit different in both scenarios, but we can right-click and we can say page to phone. Now when someone's on the phone, this is going to open up a whisper paging mode where we're actually talking in their ear right now. They can hear us, but the caller can't. When we're done, we click the end now to make that go away. If they're off the phone, that function's a little bit different, where it's more like kind of a muted speaker where we're talking, over the speaker in their phone. But you notice it doesn't take a phone line. All that software is actually built into the Cisco phones, and they do all the heavy lifting. So there's no audio resources needed at the server or our server or anything like that. It all happens on the phones themselves. Some of the older phones are not supported in the audio paging. The 7940 and 60 are two that come to mind. But all their older siblings, like the 41, 42, 45, 61, 62, 65, etc., are all supported just fine. It's just the really old phones don't have the software on them to support that, but pretty much anything in the last 7 years does. So that's kind of messaging and paging in a nutshell. The next topic is outside numbers. So what do we do with those? Well, if it's a phone number we need to call or transfer a call to all day, every day, that's not part of the phone system, we do have a mechanism where these can be put in and made to look like an extension. They won't have any status or anything like that, but it is possible. The preferred place for them is actually the My Address Book, if it's something that is somewhat less frequently. It's a separate window, but it's easy to get in and out of. It lets you build as many categories as you want with as many numbers as you want. It'll import from both the CSV and the legacy Cisco Attendant console file, so you can pull in data you may have already had. It's completely searchable. So if I want all the Johns, I can pull up all the Johns. If I want to transfer a call to this person, I can. If I want to send an email to that person, since they have an email address, I can do that as well. All kind of in one place. If I have a really awesome category and I want to share it with another user, I can do that as well. The nice thing about it is it makes it, like I said, it's really easy to get in and out of. So for example, let's say I need to make a call to Joe, and I realize the Joe's in my external book. So when I open that up, that search carried through for me. All the Joes are right there. Boom, transfer, boom, call. In and out simply and easily. The same applies for Active Directory phone book. If you did choose to get your title, department, name information from AD, we'll actually build out a full Active Directory table so you can see all the Joes in your Active Directory and transfer a call to any of the numbers that are in there as well. So you don't have to maintain it on 15 different computers if you've already got it all built out and centralized. All right, so the next topic is call forwarding. We'll support this in a couple of different manners. One of them is just basically to forward the phone itself. So if I needed to forward Susan's phone, I can just right-click on it, and I can punch in any number I want. Say I want to forward it to 7001, I can do that. You'll see, we'll even send out a little chime and notify her that we just did that. But it'll be forwarded just like that. If I need to clear that, you'll see that show up in our program as well. But if I need to clear that, I just do the same process and just do it with no number, and it'll go back to normal. And our program will show that in just a second as well. Excuse me. The second option is to use our server to do a time-based forwarding. So what does that mean? Let's say we wanted to forward our phone to somebody for 2 minutes. We have to run to the bathroom or something like that. Well, it's easier than trying to remember to turn it off or on, or maybe it's a phone that we can't reach or it's in a locked room and we still need to forward it. So we're going to forward our phone to Susan for 2 minutes. So when we do that, this will obviously show a little bit different. It'll show that BOC is forwarding the phone. We'll also push out a message to that person's phone, giving them the option to undo that if they want, but at least to notify them who forwarded their phone. So now if we make a call to that phone, you'll see it just get redirected by our server instantly right to the person we've got it forwarded to. Like I said, in 2 minutes this will go away by itself, so it's not something you have to remember to turn off. The other thing our server can do, since it is privy to all the events on the phone system, is it can listen for an emergency number like 911 being dialed. When something like that would happen, we have the ability to turn on 2 different kinds of notification if you like. You can enable none of them, one or both of them. So completely up to you. The first would send an SMTP email to either a person or a group of people, letting them know all the information about the call and the person who made it. So this can be handy in either a true emergency situation or if it's a misdial. So you can kind of correct that person and teach them how to use their phone properly. The second would actually send a message directly to their phone, to either a group or one person's phone screen, letting them know that a certain person dialed 911 with a chime as well. And those sounds are all completely pickable from your Cisco ring list. You can have different sounds for parking, messaging, 911, so the people can kind of be trained to know what sound means what after a little bit. But I'm just going to go ahead and dial 911 on phone 7001. And you'll see when I do that, we're alerted to that right away. And you see our forward has also gone away now too. And that's pretty much the program in a nutshell. There are some additional add-on features that we do sell. I mentioned the Microsoft Exchange connector that gives you visibility into the calendar. It also maintains your Exchange contacts here, so those will always be in sync. The other add-ons that we support are the group messaging and paging add-on, which will let you do a couple different things. One, it'll let you send either a voice page or a text message to a group of phones all at once. You can either build groups on the server or use any extension group. You can pin one of those here where it'll just page all phones in the whole organization if that's what you want to do. Or if you just want to page a particular extension group, you can do that. You can also send a text message to everyone in that group and even schedule it if you like. But the really kind of neat thing that you can do also is you can park a call for a whole group of people. So what does that mean? Well, basically what that means is if I have a call and I want it to go to someone in this group, I can park it for the whole group. So every phone in this group just got a notification that there's a call parked for them. So if I pick it up on, say, phone 7001, what you'll see is all the other users. Well, of course, now it didn't work. Let me park that one more time. Sometimes these soft phones don't get reset for several years and they get kind of funky. But I'll park a call for that group again. So we'll get that. I'll pick it up on a different phone and you'll see that be notified and that message go away. So that is the group parking feature that's available in the group messaging and paging. And that's pretty much the console in a nutshell, as I said. We do support another mode if you wanted to run this for, say, not an operator, but you want that visibility on your desktop. Maybe you're not willing to give up the whole screen for it. You can certainly run that in our mini mode as well. It functions exactly the same way. You'll see all the same information, the statuses, and everything. So, you know, as you get calls or things like that, those will function exactly the same way. All the same functions are there, just in a smaller size. That'll conclude today's demo. If you have any questions, contact our sales team at sales@bridgeoc.com or our technical support team at support@bridgeoc.com for any technical questions. Thank you. Have a great day.